Hi everybody and welcome to Pac-12 Chalk Talk, your source for everything Pac-12 sports. My name's Austin Controlas. I will be filling in for the legendary Mike Sackley tonight. And in studio, as always, our beautiful panelists from left to right, Ben Haber, Pierce Bly, and Robbie Baker. All right, guys, let's jump right into it. Last week, we spent a portion of the show talking about the Oregon-Stanford game. Now, Robbie, you were the only one to correctly pick the winner of that matchup as the Ducks came away with the win 53-30. Now, guys, this game was a seemingly close one at half as Stanford entered the locker room only down by 6. Despite this being a relatively high-scoring game for two top 10 teams, the Cardinal was outmatched and outscored in the second half of that game. So, guys, break down this game for me. What are your thoughts on this game, and what were the pivotal plays? Ben, we'll start with you.
Yeah, Austin, right after half, Oregon got out to an early lead. They extended the lead to 29-16 on a TD pass from Deron Thomas to Josh Huff, extending the lead to 13 points. Later on, got a couple stops, and then they had the sack fumble by Isaac Remington, led to a LaMichael James touchdown, making it 36-16, really put the game out of reach for the Cardinal.
Robbie might have been the only one on the show to actually pick this game correctly, but we both have the same pivotal plays in the game. The biggest play to me right here, the first drive, Andrew Luck interception by Oregon. I said that last week that Oregon would win this game if they started quickly, which they did against Stanford, and that interception was a big reason that they started quickly.
And for me, well, you're going to actually see perfect timing. My play right here, LaMichael James' big touchdown run to start that second quarter for Oregon, put them up by 2 scores, and by that point, the Oregon machine was rolling, and Stanford had no chance of stopping it.
Switching gears to the Pac-12 South, Ben, you and Pierce chose ASU to win the South and ultimately go on to the championship game on December 2nd. But Robbie, you disagree with them choosing UCLA as your victor. Now, guys, after watching the Sun Devils fall to the Cougars 37-27 and the Bruins lose to the Utes 31-6 last weekend, do you guys stand by your picks as to who will win the South and why? Robbie, will go with you.
I'm still going to go with UCLA right now, in my opinion. I think ASU could easily lose one, if not both, of their games ending out the season. I think UCLA will beat Colorado, and then if they beat Colorado like I think they will, they'll get momentum going, and they could give USC a run for their money in that rivalry game. If they win both games, they control their own destiny. They win the South.
After watching ASU crumble in Pullman last weekend and watching the Bruins get stuffed all week in Salt Lake City, I don't even want to make a prediction anymore. I think if ASU gets attacked in the secondary by Nick Foles and Jerron Kreiner, the way that Wazoo was able to pick them apart, I've got to go ahead and give it to UCLA because I don't think that ASU will be able to stop it. However, if ASU is able to win this weekend in Tempe, I think they do have a more favorable matchup in their last game than the Bruins do. So if they win, I got to give it to ASU.
I'm sticking with my prediction, going with ASU, a different team at home. 5-0 here in Tempe. They are 1-4 on the road. I think they're going to get the job done. As you said, Nick Foles and that passing attack is going to give the Sun Devils secondary problems, but Brock Osweiler, Drell Robinson, and Mike Willie are going to give Arizona their own problems. I like them to finish out and win this conference.
After watching all the Pac-12 matchups last weekend, you guys settled on 3 offensive players of the week. 1 player from Oregon, 1 from Wazoo, and 1 from USC. Pierce, we'll start with you. What player did you pick and why?
All I've got to say is that true freshman Connor Halliday for Wazoo was an absolute beast this past weekend. 494 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, now the record holder in those freshman categories for the Cougars. I can't wait to watch Halliday develop in the Pac-12, a very quarterback-friendly conference.
I took Curtis McNeil, the running back from the University of Southern California. He had 18 carries, a career high, 148 yards, a touchdown. One of his rushes was one that he broke for 79 yards. He was a big-time player for the Trojans last weekend.
LaMichael James had a great game, 146 yards, 3 TDs, catapulting his team right back into the national championship conversation and catapulting himself right back into the Heisman Trophy candidacy. I really like what he's been able to do for the Oregon Ducks.
Now let's take a look at who performed well on the other side of the ball last weekend. Ben, let's start with you on this one. Who was your defensive player of the week?
My defensive player of the week goes to the Utah Utes. They forced 2 turnovers, held them to 6 points, and Jonathan Franklin, a good running back for UCLA that caused ASU problems a week ago, was only limited to under 100 yards on the game. The Utes took out UCLA's explosive running game, and that's why they are my defensive player of the week.
I chose Washington State's defense for my defensive player of the week, and more specifically, their front 7. A week after Cameron Marshall ran for 68 yards on UCLA, Washington State's front 7 held him to just 37 yards, and the rushing attack of ASU total to just 60 yards on the ground.
Oh, hey, Puddles. What's up? I'm going to make you happy because I'm taking Oregon's defense as my, defense of the week because they controlled the Stanford machine on offense very well. They held Stanford to only 5 for 14 on third downs. They forced 5 turnovers. They had 2 picks and 3 fumbles. They really got under Andrew Luck's skin, and they ultimately pulled off the big victory.
As the Pac-12 football season starts its downhill descent, let's take a look at how our panelists are doing in correctly picking the winners each week. Now, Robbie, you picked Oregon over Stanford last weekend, and Ben, you chose the latter. Robbie, your correct pick puts you and Ben dead even with an overall record of 22-10. Now, Pierce, you're still neck and neck with Robbie and Ben with a record of 20-12. We only have a few weeks left of football, so guys, these last few picks are crucial if you want to be the victor when it's all said and done. And with that, let's dive right into our upcoming games this weekend. First up, we have Washington at Oregon State and Utah looking for their 4th win as they go on the road to take on Washington State. Who will come out ahead in these games? Pierce, we'll go with you.
I just think Washington's too talented of a team for Oregon State to handle, so I have the Huskies going on in that game. I really feel like Connor Halliday brought some energy to Wazoo that they haven't felt in a while, so I think the Cougars can beat the Utes at home as well.
Yeah, and I actually agree with both of Pierce's picks there. Washington with Keith Price and Chris Polk, a much more talented team than the Beavers, so the Huskies will get the win there. And I also got to go with Washington State at home coming off the big victory over ASU. I think they'll beat Utah at home.
I agree with you guys on the Huskies. I think they're going to be all over Oregon State. I like Keith Price and Chris Polk in that matchup. But I'm going to have to disagree with you guys in the other one. I like Utah on the road at Washington State. Connor Halliday had a great game, but that was against ASU's defense. Utah's defense, a different level. They have great interior rushing. They're going to get after Halliday, make him look like the freshman quarterback that he is. I like the Utes on the road.
Next up, we have Colorado, who's coming off a big win last weekend in Tucson against the Wildcats, traveling to the Rose Bowl to take on UCLA, while USC will head north to take on number 4 Oregon. Who will chalk up the win in these games? Robbie, who do you pick?
Well, UCLA is my pick right now to win the South, and I'm going to pick them to beat Colorado this week. As far as the Oregon-USC game goes, I'm going to take the Oregon Ducks in that one. Oregon averaged only 23 minutes of offensive possession a game, and they always put up huge numbers offensively. They're very efficient, and Chip Kelly's, aggressive would be the word to use, coaching style, going for it on 4th down, 2-point conversions consistently. I think they'll be all over the Trojans in that game.
Yeah, don't expect UCLA to fall 2 weeks in a row, especially at home, especially with the Pac-12 South title on the line. I expect the Bruins to beat the Buffs in the Rose Bowl. As for USC-Oregon, I think this is going to be a really good matchup. However, I just think Oregon is too quick for USC's defense. I've got Oregon winning at Outson.
Yeah, I completely disagree with you guys about the UCLA-Boulder game. I'm going to go bold, and I'm going to pick Boulder in this matchup. I really like the running game that they have, led by Rodney Stewart. I think UCLA won't be able to stop him. They had trouble with John White a week ago. I expect that to continue. I like the Boulder, Colorado Boulder. And then in USC-Oregon, I really like Oregon at home. Odds in a tough place to play. I think Deron Thomas will be too much for the USC defense.
You don't think last week was just lucky for Colorado? You think they're actually a better football team because they got 1 win?
I think they might be. I think the running game is a problem for USC to stop, and I think that's going to be the weakness and the reason why they lose this week.
And finally, to round out rivalry weekend, the Wildcats will travel to Tempe on Saturday to seek revenge from last year's defeat as they take on Brock Osweiler and the Sun Devils. In the meantime, Cal looks to extend Stanford's losing streak as they head across the bay to Palo Alto. Ben, you went bold on your last picks. Who are you going with now?
I'm taking ASU at home. They're 5-0 at home. Like I said, I think they're going to be able to handle Arizona. Nick Foles should have a good game. It will be a shootout, but I think Brock Osweiler will get the best of them. And Stanford, just the best team in Northern California. I like them over the California Bears.
The Territorial Cup between Arizona and ASU was the hardest game for me to pick this week. I'm going to have to give it to ASU. They're not going to want to lose to their rivals with the Pac-12 South title on the line, especially at home in Tempe. Dennis Erickson's job potentially on the line as well. I think the Sun Devils will be able to pull out a win. As for Cal and Stanford, Cal's a very good football team this year. They've impressed me. I just think Stanford is too good offensively for Cal's defense to stop. So I've got Stanford at home in that one.
Yeah, I think Stanford will have no problem beating California at home in Palo Alto. They're a much better football team. As far as the U of A Arizona State game goes, this game is eerily similar to what happened last year with U of A starting off strong and then ASU going to Tucson last year and beating them. I guess it was on the road for ASU. ASU started off very strong this year, and now U of A comes into town to face a struggling Sun Devil team. Now, with that being said, I think ASU will get the victory at home because they are a much different team at home than they are on the road. So I think Dennis Erickson will get the boys ready to go, and they will get the win this Saturday.
Now, guys, as football starts to wind down, Pac-12 basketball is just getting started. So, guys, I know your attention will be split this weekend between basketball and football, but if you could only catch one Pac-12 football game this weekend, which would it be and why? Pierce, will go with you.
My game of the week, although USC-Oregon I think is going to be a great game as well, has to go to the Territorial Cup between U of A and Arizona State. Arizona State knows it has the Pac-12 South title hanging on the brink. They know Dennis Erickson could be fired after the season if they end up losing to Arizona and or Cal the rest of the season. I think it's going to be a great matchup, though, between Nick Foles, Jaron Kreiner, and ASU secondary, seeing what ASU secondary let Connor Halliday do to him last weekend.
Yeah, and I couldn't say any better myself as I stumbled through my words there. But I think ASU and U of A is the best game this week to watch because the Territorial Cup is such a storied rivalry in college football. I don't think this weekend's game will disappoint.
It's tough to deny that's going to be a good game, guys. Great game it was last year. But I'm going to go with USC at Oregon. I'm curious to see how Matt Barkley will do in the tough environment in Autzen Stadium, what he's going to face. NFL scouts going to be looking at that game, seeing if Barkley can do well in that kind of environment. USC currently the second best run defense in the Pac-12, allowing just under 100 yards per game. Can they stop the explosive running game of Oregon? I don't think so.
Speaking of basketball, guys, what are your expectations for Pac-12 basketball this season? We saw a lot of non-conference games last week, and it's only a matter of time before conference play gets underway. So what teams do you think will excel in the Pac-12 and why? Robbie, will go with you.
Well, Austin, in my opinion, it's going to be a three-team race to start off this conference. You see California here. They're one of the teams I think that'll be at the top, along with UCLA and Arizona. Now, UCLA, as you see right here, actually. Now, UCLA got upset last week. U of A had a close call against Duquesne. But when it comes to conference play, the Pac-12 is a bad basketball conference at best. And these teams will be the best of the worst, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, I couldn't have said anything better myself, Robbie. I think UCLA will be at the top with Arizona and Cal following them. Oregon State and Oregon and USC perhaps could challenge as well as Washington, but I think in terms of the conference itself, the Pac-12 is just a little bit behind, the ACC, the SEC, the Big East. I just don't think that the conference is as strong in terms of basketball as it is in football.
I expect 3 to 4 teams make the NCAA tournament. You're going to have Washington, Cal, Arizona, and UCLA all bidding for a national berth. So I really like those 4 teams. But the thing is, for UCLA, one thing to watch out for, Reeves Nelson. I really like this team. If he's not on the court for the UCLA Bruins, it's a completely different team because they have those big guys down low with Holiday. So I don't know if they'll be able to get the job done without him.
That's all the time we have this week. Thanks for joining us. For more Chalk Talk, be sure to subscribe right here on YouTube, follow us on Twitter, and find us on Facebook. For Ben Haber, Pierce Bly, and Robbie Baker, I'm Austin Controlas. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you on the 29th.